welcome back to Wrestling Flash. In this WWE and all things wrestling video we are going to look at Roman Reigns coming to WWE Raw to face Theory to become undisputed WWE Universal Champion at the age of 24, the best and worst of Raw after Money in the Bank 2022, Becky Lynch and Asuka check on each other after the Raw match, major plans for Cody Rhodes at WWE Money in the Bank before his injury. First, let's look at the best and worst of Raw after Money in the Bank 2022. Welcome to this week's edition of the best and worst of Raw. It was a good show post Money in the Bank 2022 as the build-up to SummerSlam began. WWE announced one title match from the Red brand and also planted the seeds for other matches. Overall, it was a strong show, but at the same time, perhaps not the strongest that we have seen in recent weeks. So what were the ups and downs of Raw this week? Number 3. Best. The main event of Raw concluded the epic Becky Lynch-Asuka saga. The 2-month feud between Becky Lynch and Asuka has possibly ended in a no-holds-barred match on the latest edition of Raw. Although they are technically 2-2 in singles matches against each other, WWE has seemingly decided to wrap it up well before SummerSlam comes around. The two women have been responsible for several epic main events and are yet to have a bad match. Their chemistry is simply that good with each other, and Asuka knows how to make her opponents look great. She also made herself look good even in defeat. This was one of the high points of Raw and the best way to end the show. Number 2. Worst. WWE's handling of the new Judgment Day. The Judgment Day lost to the Mysterios this week on Raw. Granted, it was via disqualification, but WWE has arguably done nothing to make the faction look good ever since Finn Balor took over. It certainly didn't help that Rhea Ripley wasn't around, but the moment Edge was booted out of the group, things went downhill. WWE arguably made a big mistake by handing them a defeat on Raw. However, they did maintain a level of dominance by attacking the father-son duo after the match. Number 2. Best. Establishing Liv Morgan. WWE did a good job in establishing newly crowned SmackDown Women's Champion Liv Morgan on Raw. Although she is the Blue Brand's champion, there was seemingly more anticipation to see her over the ever-popular Bianca Belair. The two women's champions teamed up this week to face Natalya and Carmella, who will likely face Bianca Belair at SummerSlam. The babyface champions won, and it was a fairly straightforward night that way. But it was good that Morgan was pushed further and got the pinfall on the night. Number 1. Worst. No Theory vs. John Cena at SummerSlam. Bobby Lashley vs. Theory will be happening at SummerSlam 2022. While it isn't a bad direction, many fans were expecting John Cena face-off against Theory. It essentially confirms that Cena vs. Theory may only happen next year at WrestleMania. Apart from that, the 6-man tag team match featuring Lashley and the Street Profits vs. Theory and Alpha Academy was entertaining to watch. However, this will likely be the first of several rematches as we move towards SummerSlam. Number 1. Best. AJ Styles keeps getting into important spots. Former WWE Champion AJ Styles hasn't been massively utilized on the Red brand this year. However, he continues to be booked in important matches. He faced Edge at WrestleMania 38 this year and could potentially team up with Logan Paul against The Miz and Ciampa at SummerSlam. It will be fun to watch and good for Logan Paul to get a rub from the Phenomenal One. It just goes to show that WWE fully trusts AJ Styles. Major plans for Cody Rhodes at WWE Money in the Bank before his injury. Latest reports claim that Cody Rhodes' rumored win for WWE Money in the Bank was never planned. Ever since his return at WrestleMania 38, the American Nightmare has seen himself at the top of the division and has even become the face of the show. However, his momentum stopped when it was announced that he tore his right pectoral moments before his match against Seth Rollins in Hell in a Cell. Before his injury, Cody Rhodes was advertised for this year's Money in the Bank. The initial poster for the event displayed Cody but was then removed. Aside from that, he was also featured in a commercial where he seemingly misspoke about the match's rules. But it looks like the MITB briefcase was never planned to be his anyway. According to Ringside News, the veteran was never booked to win the match. Reports share that even if he was scheduled to win, nobody was informed beforehand by Vince McMahon. They added that the former chairman had a lot of ideas in mind but never mentioned that Rhodes would be the eventual victor. The main event of Money in the Bank saw Theory, a surprise entry in the match, come out as the winner. The women's MITB ladder match saw Liv Morgan capture the briefcase, which she cashed in later that night to win the SmackDown Women's title from Ronda Rousey. Fans last saw the American Nightmare live on TV during the Raw after Hell in a Cell. Unfortunately for Rhodes, his send-off wasn't as peaceful as he hoped it would be. As he tried to leave after an emotional promo, his HIAC opponent Rollins attacked him with a sledgehammer. However, Cody Rhodes made a surprise appearance through a video during the Raw before Money in the Bank. In the clip, he expressed his excitement for the competitors and shared details regarding his injury. The Raw superstar stated that he wouldn't be able to compete for 9 months, adding that his experience with rehab is a game of highs and lows. For now, fans are eagerly waiting for Cody Rhodes' eventual return. It's still unclear whether Rhodes will pick up where he left off against Seth Rollins or if he will face another WWE superstar. Becky Lynch and Asuka check on each other after the Raw match. Becky Lynch and Asuka were spotted checking on each other following the main event of tonight's Raw. Big Time Bex and Asuka faced off in a no-holds-barred bar match that headlined tonight's edition of WWE Raw. The match ended with Lynch pinning the Empress of Tomorrow to bag a massive win. Immediately after Becky Lynch's victory, both women were seen checking on each other. Becky Lynch and Asuka have been in a feud on WWE Raw for a while now. The feud has certainly been a hit with the WWE Universe if weekly fan reactions are any indication. In real life, though, the two women are good friends and have nothing but praise and admiration for each other. After Money in the Bank 2020, Lynch handed over her Raw Women's title to Asuka and went on a hiatus due to her pregnancy. She later opened up about giving her prized possession to Asuka and heaped major praise on the Japanese star. Passing the championship on to Asuka meant a lot. She really deserves it. And another element that people missed, because it's not really advertised, is that she's a working mom. She's proven that you can do it all. You can be a BS and go off and have a family. You can come in and still kick more have a YouTube show, and be entertaining as all hell. The fact that she was the person to take that title from me meant a lot to me, she said. Both Asuka and Lynch have been eyeing the Raw Women's title for a while now. The two popular superstars recently participated in the Women's Money in the Bank ladder match at the namesake PLE, but neither of them managed to win the contract. Lynch has gained massive momentum following her big win over Asuka on tonight's Raw. It remains to be seen if she manages to get back into the women's title picture in the coming weeks and regain her former glory. Roman Reigns coming to WWE Raw to face Theory. Roman Reigns is scheduled to appear on the July 25th episode of WWE Raw at Madison Square Garden in New York City. The July 25th episode will be 5 days before WWE SummerSlam in Nashville. The Tribal Chief is scheduled to put his undisputed WWE Universal Championship on the line against Brock Lesnar in a last man standing match at the Premium Live event. The official Madison Square Garden website is advertising that the 37-year-old superstar will appear, along with former SmackDown Women's Champion Ronda Rousey. Riddle vs. Seth freaking Rollins is also advertised for the July 25th episode of Raw. Earlier this year, WWE held a live event at Madison Square Garden. Roman Reigns competed at the event and retained the Universal Championship in a victory over Seth Rollins. Meanwhile, Brock Lesnar defended the WWE Championship against Austin Theory in the main event. After the match, Reigns and the Usos rushed to the ring and attacked the Beast. Brock was able to fight them off and cornered his special counsel, Paul Heyman. The Tribal Chief grabbed a steel chair and bashed Lesnar across the back with it. After the attack, Reigns posed with both the WWE and Universal Championship and asked the crowd to acknowledge him. He would then go on to become the undisputed WWE Universal Champion a few weeks later at WrestleMania 38. Roman Reigns recently inked a new deal with WWE that requires him to make fewer appearances. He is currently scheduled to appear on Friday's SmackDown, the July 22nd edition of the Blue Brand, and the July 25th episode of Raw on the road to WWE SummerSlam. Theory to become undisputed WWE Universal Champion at the age of 24. WWE legend Booker T is optimistic about Theory cashing in his contract and becoming world champion in the promotion. Theory has the opportunity to become the undisputed WWE Universal Champion at the age of 24 after he won the men's Money in the Bank briefcase at the recently concluded show. The Raw superstar has already set his sights on SummerSlam, where he's vowed to beat Roman Reigns or Brock Lesnar, depending on who emerges victorious in the last man standing match. While speaking on his Hall of Fame show, Booker T said that Theory could beat Roman Reigns or anyone else to become world champion if it's the right situation and if he's booked properly by WWE. It's not losing, but it's how you lose. He could beat Roman. He could beat anybody on the card if the situation is right. If a person is unconscious when I cash in, who loses? If you book it properly, Theory is not going to be one of the guys that got the briefcase and didn't cash it in and win it. I don't see that happening. This kid has got way too much upside for something like that to happen. That's just me and what I would be thinking if I had Theory in this position, said Booker T. The Hall of Famer feels that Theory has been doing a great job. He also thinks that the former United States champion hasn't had one misstep since being pushed by the company. The youngest Money in the Bank winner in history has a few big matches that he could have in the weeks and months to come. It was confirmed on this week's Raw that Theory has the opportunity to win the United States title as he will face Bobby Lashley once again at SummerSlam. Theory could also cash in his Money in the Bank contract on the winner of the Roman Reigns vs. Brock Lesnar world title match. 16-time world champion John Cena is another probable opponent for him following their recent face-off on Raw. The future is looking bright for Theory, and it's exciting to see what heights he will reach in WWE.